All right, so we are rolling here with Mike Diamond. Thank you for being here today and sharing your time. I so appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me. We've become besties. We were about to like take on the world together at the Christian scene, and then all of a sudden the pandemic came.
COVID hit and like just all came screeching to a halt, which is all good. It will happen when it happens.
Yeah.
And you are in the LA area.
I am in the LA area.
So are you wearing shorts? Is it nice and warm there?
It is. It's really nice actually. It's funny. I enjoy I enjoy the heat, but I enjoy the cold. So I can go either way. So I can like cold. Sometimes I want cold weather. Like sometimes it's too hot, too long, and I'm just like, come on, really. Like,
have you experienced a Canadian winter?
That's a little different. I think that's Arctic. That'd test me. I was in New York 10 years, and it's not like Canadian cold, but it's cold. But I think that it would be. I would do it just to see how I felt. I like to see. Like, I think it makes it. I think cold weather, unlike hot weather, really tests your mental.
Yeah.
It's really tough. It's like to go through that mental fortitude. Cold breaks you.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that because I'm originally from Edmonton, Alberta, and there's a lot of Americans that don't know where it is, but Alberta's next to British Columbia, and Edmonton is the capital. And Edmonton is known as one of the coldest places in Canada for winters. And there's this joke that Edmontonians are really tough people because of the cold.
You have to be.
Yeah.
You have to. I'll tell you. Yeah, but it is. But I'll tell you why. When I lived in New York, I trained outdoors, and when I did Kyokushin karate, because it's harder to warm up as it is to cool down. Like you can cool down easy. You can find shade, you can drink water, but to warm up, to really warm the body up when it's freezing, that's why the Navy SEALs, what do they do? It's cold. A lot of the guys say we can't handle the cold in the water. Take a cold shower for 30 seconds. That's what I tell people to do. And what you question in the shower is what you're questioning in life.
Oh, interesting.
And it's only 30 seconds, but you don't want to do it.
It's interesting. I had a cold shower this morning. I used to do them before, and I came back on a walk. I was sweating from the walk, and I was like, I'm going to do this cold shower. And it's been over a year, I think, since I've done cold showers. And I was just like, fuck. And I was just breathing through everything.
And it's just 30 seconds of cold, but you want out so bad.
So bad. Yeah. And the thing is, I went in with the intention of at least 2 minutes. And I was like, fuck this. I'm going to try this another day, work myself up.
That's a perfect example. You're like, 2 minutes? This is the dumbest thing ever. This is the dumbest thing ever.
Yeah.
I do. I love Wim. I do. Yeah. He's a superstar. I love him. Very special man. He's a very special being.
So you do the whole bath with the ice and everything?
I did. I stopped after my hernia surgery. It was really weird. I had a lot of trouble with the freezing cold ice baths. But you know what's interesting? Before I did the 30 half marathons, I did a nice cold bath, and I sat in the bath for like 25 minutes, and I felt fine because my body was training so ridiculously mentally, like I could just deal with it. So I knew that was kind of the test. I was like, if I can do a 30-minute freezing cold bath, I can run the 30 half marathons. Like if I can sit in and enjoy it, it was really good to like test myself. And I was fine. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to skate through. I did little things like that just to see where I was at. Wow. You know what I mean? Because I knew I had to like figure out, it was beyond figuring out, like there was no playbook. It's like 30 half marathons in 30 days with a hernia and colitis. Like
that's so crazy.
There's no book on that. It's like, it's me against me.
For sure. And that's a testament to your unbreakable mindset. And I want to rewind a little bit and go back to your early days in Perth. So if you can bring us back there and how you grew up, because it's important for people to hear your background.
So born in Perth, which is the most isolated capital city in the world. My parents did the best they can, but they weren't there. You know what I mean? I'll give you a perfect example of when they're not there. So I just did the cover of Recovery magazine, and all these people messaged me and they said, oh my God, Recovery magazine. And I said, well, as a kid, I thought I'd get on Rolling Stone. I got on Recovery. And they're like, your family must be so proud of you. You know, I'm like, my parents never messaged me, and neither of my siblings. No one messaged me and said congratulations. They just don't. That's what I grew up with. But for some reason, they were very loving and to my other siblings. So I got out. But unfortunately, at 12, I started using, drinking.
A pause there. Why do you think that is, that they were like that towards you and not your other siblings?
You know, it's really interesting. My older brother was sick at 7. My sister was premature, my younger sister, and my little brother, the third one, pretty much got away with murder. He just was, I think it was my personality. I was very, from a young age, I didn't have a filter. I didn't, for example, European, Greek, Italian, Egyptian, whatever, there's this cultural thing, like, even if someone's really not nice to you, you're supposed to just be nice back. And I just wasn't that person. I would go on, if you treat me good, I treat you good. If you don't treat me good, I call you out. Right. That is not culturally, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Then being undiagnosed dyslexic, ADHD and OCD, and I was really good at sports, I had a massive amount of energy, but I didn't know where to place it. So I was a good kid, but I was supercharged, like with energy. And they just couldn't understand my personality. I was very extroverted, very positive, which was unheard of. Big goals, big dreams. I'm going to America. I'm going to do this. And they just, the kind of person, I mean, I came from a small town and went to New York and succeeded. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like the level of the capacity I had to grow and reach my full potential, they just could not understand how I used to process. I just couldn't figure out, if you could do it, to me, I can do it. That's just how from a little kid, I was wired that way. And then I would just watch you and go, well, what are you doing? Then what do I need to do? Because I'm dyslexic. I didn't have the ability to process it through the academic side. I would just look at you and model your behavior.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they just couldn't, no one could keep up with that. And I've always been, from a little kid, always driven.
Right.
Always,
so that 0 to 60 energy, they just couldn't handle it.
Couldn't handle it. They just didn't know. Very complicated for them. They just, so physically my dad just couldn't deal with me, so he just beat me. And then my mum would beat the crap out of me and just talk down to me, and I just wouldn't accept. I've always had a problem. I've never been a negative person, never been a mean person, and I've always had a problem with people talking down to people. I'd stand up for myself, stand up for other people. I never agree with it. It wasn't something I had to think about. Like, that's wrong. That's wrong. Yeah. I don't care what you say, and I'll fight you if you're wrong. And so I think just that, and you get a small town mentality, like Perth, Western Australia, isolated capital city, small town, this big personality, these big dreams, going to go to America, going to do all these things. And I just got out. I just went crazy.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. So I was a rebel from your age.
Yeah. See, I hear that. Okay. Yeah. Awesome. And sorry, I forgot the point that you left off at.
So, well, here's the thing that's really interesting. So, which you talk about my childhood. So I had the reason I'm so good to people, and if I feel it, like we connected, I'm like, that's it, we're working together. If I feel it, I go. I have faith in my higher power and source energy. I don't even question it. If it feels right, it's right. I don't get too analytical. I work out the process then. I analyze the process, you do the work. And I had a neighbor who's a beautiful lady, and she pulled me aside when I was struggling one day. And, I was pretty suicidal at 16. I got kicked out of school, heavy drug use, heavy beatings, learning issues. I didn't know how to process anything. And she just winked at me and said, this today is nothing. In 10 years from now, trust me, this won't matter. And she found me on Facebook and sent me a message saying, I'm so proud of you and what you've done. I watch your videos. And I said to her, you probably don't remember pulling me aside years ago. And she said, yeah, I do. I remember talking to you. She goes, you're way ahead of your time. You'd ask a lot of big questions. And the greatest thing was she was American, and she was the only American I actually knew. And because she was American, people didn't like her because she was very cocky, they thought, and forward thinking. And I loved her. We talked for hours, and I would really ask her questions. And we just bonded. And she's like, yeah, I always remember you'd ask great questions. You're a young kid, because I knew you'd find your cause and you share it out. And it was so great that she took one moment with me and it's a wink. She just winked at me. She goes, trust me on this. I know what you're feeling. This won't matter anything in 20 years from now. And she was right. Changed my life, changed my course, because I just that one person. And that's why I try to be that one person.
Wow.
You
Are you still in touch with her?
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing after 30 years.
Wow. Very cool.
So cool. Oh, yeah, it was so cool. And now I send her, we send back and forth, and she's so cool. I mean, she's a 70-year-old woman, and she's watching my videos, and she's like, I remember the time. I remember pulling you aside. She goes, I knew you'd do good things.
Mm.
It's really cool.
That reminds me of, so I don't know if you know the guy, his name is Emmanuel Jal. Emmanuel is a conscious hip hop artist, and he did the foreword for my book. And a big reason why I asked him to do it is because he grew up as a child soldier in South Sudan, and he witnessed his family being killed. He was forced to kill people before the age of 10. And he had a lot of hatred, and he turned that into, how can I be a part of the solution? There was a British aid worker named Emma McCune. And he tells this story so beautifully, I can't even do it justice. But there was a point where he shared where there was all these child soldiers, and she was only allowed to give food to one child. And she had to pick, and she was going down, looking at all their faces. And there was just something about him where she was like, she chose him, and he said, why did you pick me? And something similar, I don't remember the exact words, but something similar where she just knew that he would grow older and do something, like be a part of the solution like he wanted to.
It's amazing. I think that's when people talk about infinite intelligence, super consciousness, source energy, whatever you want to talk about, there is an intelligence that runs the universe and synchronizes. And when we can get out, that's why I say to people, anyone can have faith in the feast, but who has faith in the famine? Who has faith in the unknown now? Who can sit there and just do the work that we're doing and process stuff and take the risks now when there's nothing guaranteed?
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And people want it a certain way in this, but there's nothing guaranteed. There's nothing guaranteed. If you really break it all down, nothing's guaranteed. I've watched friends of mine, I mean, there's a lot of people that didn't get sober that are dead now, that I knew, that we were friends. And I just like, no, I'm staying on course. And they couldn't stay on course, so this work is so important.
Do you think that in your journey, like you were 16, you're into drugs and all that stuff, when you saw other people who were dying, overdosing throughout your journey, did that ever go, whoa, what am I doing? I need to stop this. Did that ever play a role? Or, because I've heard both stories where it doesn't even faze people when people close to them overdose and they just keep doing drugs anyways?
That's a good question. All right. So I always knew, I don't know if some people are born with more connection than others. That goes into past lives, whatever, how deep you want to go. I always had good intuition. I knew. I just knew. And I didn't need a lot of information. Like if I felt it, I went with feeling and intuition. When I started to use, I didn't think, I stopped. So that's why what was very difficult for me was the level of maintenance, in the sense of I could do a massive amount of drinking and drug use and show up, which is very rare. I was a very strange addict, a very disciplined addict. Even when I was using it in my older life, I got sober at 20 and didn't use for years. Then I went back in and used, and I would go in and out. But when I really what hit it for me was spiritual. It was a spiritual rock bottom. It wasn't financial. It was more that I could, when I was with Scott Weiland and we were partners in a bar together, and I could see, I stopped. I had that moment where I paused and went, where am I going to be in 10 years? And I'm like, I'll be dead. Mm-hmm. And ironically, 10 years sober, he's dead.
Oh, wow.
I was detoxing someone in a rehab facility and he died. Because I just had that moment of clarity where I'm like, this is not giving me the return that I want. I never did it for my personality. I did it because I did it and I could get away with it. And that's even sicker. That's even worse. Like, it's like when you watch, when I was around, I guess for me, I was around I was a kid from a small town. Then I'm around the biggest artists in the world, the biggest rock stars in the world are my friends and partners, and they're miserable. And I was just like, and I stopped putting people on a pedestal. And I said, well, what am I doing this for? Like, what's my purpose? Is really getting up and doing an 8 ball of cocaine and drinking and bullshitting my way through life going to get me anywhere?
Yeah.
You know, and I just had that moment. And the funniest thing was, as soon as I had that moment, I was done. I was done. It was a shit. I didn't even question it. It doesn't matter what I'm faced with. Give me $1 billion. I won't use. It's not about money. Money, it brings me no happiness. It's about purpose. You know, the effect is money if my cause is right. So it doesn't matter what someone offers me. It doesn't matter how much pain I go through. I sit in the pain, do the work.
Yeah. So if you continued the way you were going, you would have just 10 years down the road, unfulfilled, unhappy, miserable. You could have all the money in the world. Doesn't mean anything.
You're dead. What does money anyway? You don't take it with you. Do you know what I mean? The point of this life is to self-actualize, reach your full potential. You know what I mean? And sit in it to grow and learn and be of service to others.
100%.
So
yeah, go ahead.
No, you go.
So you're in Perth. Now, how did you get to America?
There's a crazy story. So I moved to Sydney to go to acting school, and I had a really incredible moment. So I was at acting school, and this is where higher power, source energy. I can't really talk about the incident as much. I couldn't talk about it in a book, but they wouldn't let me. So I befriended a teacher who was not a good guy, an acting teacher, and he took me and another student out one night, and we got really messed up, and he unfortunately took advantage of her, but he had me smashed out on ketamine. I couldn't do anything, but I had a real recollection that he was inappropriate. So the next day at acting school, I pulled her aside and said, hey, was he inappropriate with you? And she said, yes. She says, but don't say anything because they'll kick us out of acting school. We shouldn't have gone with him. And I was like, yeah, it's not going to happen. I've got to say something. So I went over to the dean. I said, look, it's my word against his. She's not going to say anything because she's freaked out. He's a piece of shit. He needs to go. And he said, well, if you're both there, you're going to have to leave, or you leave gracefully, we'll toss him out. So I left, and I was walking down a clothing mall in Sydney. I'd never sold clothes or anything like that. And I went into a clothing store and asked the guy for a job. And he thought I was crazy. And I said, I'll work here for free for a week. He was like, all right. So I said, if you can sell clothes, sell them now. So a lady came in the store, and I didn't know much about clothes, but I could sell myself. And there was a window, there was an outfit in the window. So I kind of looked at her, and I was just kind of sizing her up. And I was like, look, it's a menswear store. What are you after? Your husband, your son? And she gave me an in. She said, for my son. I said, perfect. Is he around my size? She said, yeah. I'm like, give me a sec. So I went into the changing room, and I put on the outfit. And I came out, and she bought the outfit. And the guy's like, you got a job. So I was hustling and going to acting school, making money. And I was pretty much sober at the time. Then another customer came in, and she's like, look, I did the same thing. And she's like, have you heard of the green card lottery? And I'm like, no, you're out of your mind. And the next day, she gave me a green card lottery ticket. It's crazy, like a Willy Wonka story. So I went to the American Embassy, and I said, is this legit? And they said, yeah, you'll never win. Now, this is what makes it crazy. So I say to my parents have been like, they're just out of their minds. I say to my parents, if you get anything from the American Embassy, please send it to me, because I had planned to leave anyway, but I said it'll be a green card, it'll be a visa. And I'd already planned, I'll just go to America and win it. And they said that they'd figure out by July 4th, nothing came. I was calling my parents, did you get anything? Did you get anything? I said, nothing. So it was like end of August, I get this package from my mum. And so it's like, all right, and there's a bunch of family photos. And then at the bottom of the package, it's this whole thing with loads of files. Michael Diamond, you've been selected for the green card lottery. You won a green card. So I won a green card, complete fluke. I called my parents and said, you didn't tell me. I told you to tell me. We thought it was another one of your scams. So I specifically said, so what's crazy about that is even though they could have interrupted the flow of the source coming to me, they couldn't, because it got to me. That's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, but even then, instead of like celebrating it, he's just going to go to America and do something stupid, or he's never going to do anything.
Yeah.
So they were wrong.
Wow. So just like that, you got the the lottery. So it pretty much, were you able to leave right away?
No, it took 9 months to immigrate. You have to immigrate correctly. And they're hardcore. They're no joke. You had to have like a 2 years bank statements, no criminal history, graduated high school. Thank God I graduated. And you cannot be a dependent on the country, obviously. Then I moved here with nothing. I had nothing. I didn't know anyone. It was before the internet. It's not like I could befriend a bunch of people on Facebook and join a community. I just came with nothing, and I ended up in Miami first because I didn't want to experience a New York winter straight off the boat. And I was in Miami and literally got a job in a jewelry store. And the craziest story is someone goes to me, do you want to work at a nightclub? And I said, I hate nightclubs, dumbest thing ever. And the guy goes, it's, $150 a night. And I'm like, I'm working in a nightclub. Absolutely. I was a kid. I was like living on like scraps. And I had a little apartment, which was only like $400 a month in Miami on the beach, And I took this job, and it was really weird. So I was working at this nightclub for like a couple of months, and I got fired for no reason. The manager just didn't like me. And then this other manager said, hey, there's these guys from New York. They're coming down and they run the New York nightclubs. They'll like you. I go, what do you mean? He goes, I just know they'll like you. And back then I had a nose ring, like orangey mohawky hair. I was great, not the long one. I
have to see the picture someday.
I have to try and find you ones. It was so weird because the three of them met me and we just clicked. They're like, do you want a job? And I'm like, I don't really like nightclubs, I was honest. I said, so I was working on music projects and going to acting auditions. And they're like, it's $250 a night. And I'm like, God, I love nightclubs. This is the best. So the crazy story is, I just said, give me a job. I'll do anything. And they said, we'll give you a job and you work in the VIP. You just open the rope, let people out. I said, it's easy. I didn't really want to do it. And the opening night, the guy that's supposed to run the whole club, the door guy, the cool guy, he gets a DUI. So they go, you went to acting school, right? I said, yeah. And I'm like, can you act? I said, of course I can. They're like, you want to run the whole club, like be the door guy? And it was this moment, and it's like proper preparation prevents poor performance. It's like, if you're ready, you got to step. And I'm like, yes, I'll do it. And I became their guy. And then I shot a TV show in Miami. Then I moved to New York with them. They moved back. They opened up the hottest club in New York. Then I got a job at Bungalow 8, which was the hottest place. I was on Sex and the City. And I became this door guy. And then I met Scott Weiland in 2004. And we opened up this famous rock club together.
Wow.
It was insanity. And then 2006, I got sober. 14 years this month.
Wow. It's interesting, the opportunities that life presents, and you just had to say yes. Like versus like nightclub, I don't do nightclubs. And like, okay, sure, the money was an incentive, but yes. Do you act? Do you want to be the door guy? Yes. And how it just keeps opening more and more doors. And there's so many people that stay in their comfort zone. And sure, there's, things we got to work out. But so many people just stay in this bubble and there's no exploring outside of it. And so nothing happens, Yeah.
Do you know who I really, it's allowed me to, people talk about the growth mindset. I talk about the flexibility of the mindset, learning to bend, not break, and take every opportunity and just look, it's just information, right? So when I look at really interesting people, to me is like Gary V is really interesting. And the reason I say that is his dad owned a liquor store and he worked in that liquor store and took it and then turned it into an e-commerce store, made millions, didn't take a lot of money. Then he went into took the same philosophy, invested a lot of money in like Twitter and little startups, and just was committed to stay in one place and be resourceful. And I think that's a really good thing. It's like everyone's looking for the perfect moment, the perfect time, the perfect resources. They don't exist. So what I learned in my early years was look, there's a great story that I contradict and I like to challenge it. So it's called it's about life mission. And the story is a guy visits a cathedral and he sees three gentlemen working. and he sees one guy, and the guy says, I'm building a wall. The other guy says, I'm laying bricks. The other guy says, I'm building a wall. The other guy says, I'm building a cathedral. And the moral of the story is, one guy has a job, one guy has a career, one guy has a mission. And I'm like, well, hold on, let's flip that for a second. Let's say it's 3 guys and they're working on a cathedral, okay? So the cathedral's not the mission, but there's a place they're working. And you go to the first guy, what are you doing? Is I'm laying bricks, it's my job. Second guy, laying bricks, it's my career. Third guy, I'm laying bricks, it's my calling. I find a calling in anything I do, whether it's a cathedral or a barn or working in a 7-Eleven. I bring service and purpose and value to others.
Right.
And I think that's where people get it messed up. They're looking for the job. Passion doesn't exist. Athletes do things for passion. The sports end, what happens? I don't know what I do. So I don't think you should identify on what you're doing. I think it's here and you do it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I think in my early years, I took on anything just to, let's just figure it out. As long as I wasn't hurting others, as long as I wasn't like, I don't know, I need money, I guess I'll do it. And I was always of service. I didn't know where it would take me, but because I took massive risk and just jumped in, like we decided to do something, let's just do it. I know it's going to be good because we connect. Yeah. And then from there, we can keep building, and it's going to find itself. It's going to flourish if we do the work.
Yeah. Instead of worrying about the how and logistically, I'm not sure how this is going to work out. Yeah.
I never get stuck on that because that's overthinking. You've got to know process and you've got to be realistic. Yes. But Disney has a strategy where it was the dreamer, which is be creative as hell, then be the realist, and then break it down into compartments, what to do, how to do it, when to do it, where from, and then be the critic and look back and then start to break it down even more and then figure out the timelines. But if you don't have the initial idea, look, everything comes from nothing, right? Nothing. Yeah. So the Wright brothers have this idea, nothing. It's coming from energy. Let's go and fly. Okay, then where do you go? From nothing, you go to the smallest particle. Because if you look at a plane, you've got to put screws in. You've got to put all these little things together before you fly it. But it comes from nothing. It's inspiration.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
It's 1%. So, 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration.
I like that. It's like when they talk about the 99% being, this is the 1%, but the 99% is everything spiritual, all of the unseen that we don't see, right? And that's why intuition is so much more powerful than thinking about, well, how's this going to work and all of the process.
That's why Einstein said imagination is more important than knowledge. You've got to get knowledge, but it's the imagination, it's the trigger, it's the driver, it's the spark that then will lead you to collect the information you need to close the gap.
Yeah, for sure. And in New York, I mean, you've gone through so many adversities. You've gone through so many, if you want to call them rock bottoms, like New York. Sure. I mean, it's a big thing at a young age to even go from one side of the world to America with nothing. Yeah. And then you go from New York and you get to LA. And in LA, you've had a number of things that you've gone through, like your half marathons. So if you can share about that, because I've heard some of your story, and I'm like, man, it's you're the guy that falls down and your shoelaces are untied, but you just say, all right, let me tie this again for the 1,000th time, and let me keep going.
I think it's funny you said that. Someone asked me the other day, how do I keep getting back up? And I feel that there's a beautiful thing I heard years ago, that when the student is ready, the teacher arrives. And I look at life always being the teacher. So if I'm stuck in traffic, I've got to learn patience. If I get hit with a lawsuit, I've got to learn the strategy and learn to simplify and figure out, what's gone wrong. So when my appendix burst and I nearly died, the doctors gave me 50-50. So a crazy day. My wife comes home, it's my birthday. She tells me we're having a baby boy. That night, I go into the hospital with septic shock, nearly die, come out of the surgery, couldn't walk, lost 50 pounds. Doctor said, there is no way, you've got ulcerative colitis, your colon is done. There is no way you're going to heal yourself naturally. I healed myself naturally 6 weeks later.
Wow.
And then I was so frustrated with the doctors just kicking me in the stomach, and I was watching, just telling me, you can't do this, you can't do this. The baby came 7 weeks premature. And I was like, damn, this is serving me. I had to walk away from 2 restaurant deals in New York, which eventually folded, and I got on these lawsuits I had to figure out because my partners were idiots. And I looked at a lady run 100 miles, and I was like, how'd you do that? How do you physically, I never thought about running. I was a sprinter. I was lifting weights, sprinting. I was like, how does someone do that? And I guess I'm one of those people that just gets intrigued with possibility. So I researched her, and I realized I always look at the start. And if I feel I don't need much information. So I looked at where she started, and I said, was she a gifted, marathon runner as a kid? Nothing. She'd never run before. And then she started doing these 100 miles. I'm like, all right, if she can do it, I can do it. And then that's all I need. And then I go into the process, and I honestly commit so mentally that I could be that person. And that becomes my reality. So the first thing was, I was like, I'm going to go push the baby a half marathon. And my wife said, what are you talking about? You're going to run 5K. We're going to run a half marathon the first time? I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go a half marathon.
Yeah.
And something happened in the running. Like, I really enjoyed it. And then a trigger went off in my brain, and I found a cause, and I started running half marathons for this girl, but no one cared. So I called a friend of mine, Morgan Spelllock. I said, what do I do? He said, just go break a record, do something crazy. So, all right. So I ran Guinness, and I said, how many half marathons do I have to run in a month? And they said, well, the way it's sanctioned, you have to do them yourself and set them up. It's like 19, I think it was. I'm like, I'll just run the whole month. So I run 30 in 30 days. And they're like, yeah. And this is the great thing. I was like, all right, I got really this is where the inspiration comes. I'm like, I'm going to do 30 no matter what. And I got a hernia in the training. So I had a hernia, I had ulcerative colitis, and it was the middle of August, and I had to work every day. So there was no way out because a lot of my sponsors pulled out, and I had a bad marketing company I was working with. And it was really amazing to put yourself so far back against the wall and be in the process. And I knew in my head, I'm like, if I can solve this, if I can run 400 miles in a month, 100 miles a week with a hernia and ulcerative colitis, and some days I had to literally wear a diaper because my stomach was a wreck from the colitis, I'm like, I can do anything. I can figure anything out. And it was really humbling to just sit and try to figure it out every day and get up, sore, tired, and not be angry, and just sit in the process and every day figure out just how to get through the process of running every day of half marathon.
Wow.
It was really special. It was a really special time, spiritually, to sit in it and just figure it out.
That's incredible. So it's like, it doesn't matter your circumstance, you're still going to find a way to do this and finish it. And I love that you said you looked into the background of that woman and you said, okay, well, is it a certain thing that she had that allowed her to do this or what? So it's almost like you're looking at something, you're going, that's really intriguing. Let me see how I can reverse engineer this. Is there anything special there? No. Okay. So I can replicate it. Why can't I do it? Let me do this. And then let me take that 10 times further.
Yeah. And I think it's the commitment. I think what happens is what I like to do is if I believe you have something organic, and this is where people get it mixed up on social media, is people will post pictures about their life and you're like, it's bullshit. But and Teddy Atlas says it beautifully with athletes and bosses. He said, they say the ring is the chamber of truth because no one can save you when it's one-on-one. So they say you run one marathon or change your life. Well, I couldn't bullshit 30 half marathons in 30 days. Even if I was an Olympic half marathon runner, that means to run 30 in 30 days, that means I'm an Olympic half marathon runner. It means I've been training for years. Do you see what I mean? So this would separate the gap between people that go, oh, I could do it. And I'm like, then do it with me. And then they're like, you're actually going to do it. And then when you do it, they're like, oh, yeah, hold on. I have trouble getting out of bed and walking up the stairs. How did this guy do that with a hernia and colitis?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It takes a different level of discipline and purpose when you've got it's a gut check. You got to go inside yourself and figure it out.
So what was going through your mind during this time? Because you physically, you're in pain, you're going through all of this stuff. You talk about this unbreakable mindset. What is it? What's your mindset like as you're going through this? And when the pain kicks in and you're running there alone, like what's going on in your mind? Are you like,
this is how brilliant it is. Every day I would get something that would shift me. And I read this great story of, I can't remember the guy's name. He was in the Holocaust. And he had an idea during the night. He said to everyone, I've got to escape, I've got to escape. And they're like, you'll never escape. He goes, I've got to escape, I've got to escape. So he found out when they were burying the bodies. And he found out how they were doing it. So he stripped himself naked and jumped in the dead bodies. And they drove him to another section. And he ran 26 miles through the night, naked in the snow, to the next camp, and survived. And when I heard that story, and he said all he could do was focus in the moment, it changed my perception of reality. I'm like, this guy ran for his life, but he found a way. So I said, every day when I get up, I'm just going to find a way to stay in present. And if it hurts, just stay one step at a time. Tell myself I've just got to focus on the one step. Just got to focus on the one step. Just got to focus on the one step. And I would just stay present and just locked in. It was an uphill course. It was a dodgy course. Like I couldn't overthink it. I couldn't think about tomorrow. I would literally just stay in the steps and my steps. You know, I didn't play music because I don't like to listen to music when I run because it sometimes can spike me. I'll run too quick. So it literally became this, I'm like, fuck it. I'm not going to quit no matter what. I've got to figure this out. I've said I'm going to do it. It'll be life-changing. And I just think I just simplified it and said, I've just got to get through this. And then anything.
Moment by moment.
Yeah, that was it. And I just watched, I got enough information every day from people that had gone through so much adversity that I kept my spiritual and mental diet on just information of people that had done things that seemed extraordinary and lived in possibility. So it kind of didn't feel, I never questioned it. I never thought I'd quit. It didn't matter how much pain I was in. I never questioned I couldn't do it. I brainwashed myself that I could.
Yeah, wasn't in your vocabulary.
I mean, I literally said, if I die doing it, I'm going to die doing it, but I'm not going to quit.
Yeah. And it's like they say, how do you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time. Right. So that's incredible. And so so you've done the number of the marathons, you're in the Guinness Book now. What else is there right now that you haven't done that you would love to just tackle and do?
Well, you know, the funniest thing is this year I had a really big year planned. I was going to do the most ultra marathons in a month. I was going to do the most half marathons and the most marathons pushing a stroller.
Wow.
I was going to attempt 3 records this year, and that's non-existent now because there's everything's shut.
Yeah.
So I think, but everything has changed differently for me online. I think next year, depending on how this lasts, I really want to see what it feels like to run a marathon every day for a month. I want to see if I can. I'll do it, but I want to see what shifts in me, where I am, what it takes for me to be that committed to that. Or it's either that, or it's going to be something extreme like 30 miles a day for 30 days. I want to see where I'm at spiritually. You know, where I don't believe people are lazy. I believe people look for a way out.
Mm. Yeah, I love that you keep pushing those limits though, because you're experiencing your potential, right? By going like, okay, well, why not do 10 miles tomorrow? Why not do 30 miles? You know, why not do 30 miles every day? You know?
Because I think it reveals your character. Because if I'm in it, because then I tell you what, if I can get it right in that somehow, which is way beyond what normal people are attempting, right? Then if I get a lawsuit or I have a business proposition or I have to fight through something, I'm ready, I'm trained.
Yeah.
It's nothing that freaks me out because I do it in that process.
Yeah. Wow.
So
I'm curious. I'm curious. Your last name Diamond. Is that you were born with the name Diamond?
So it's actually Diamond Taurus. And when my grandfather came in, they took the Taurus off. But Diamond Taurus, yeah. But I'm pissed because it would have been better Diamond Taurus. I'll tell you why. Because everyone thinks there's a plumber in LA called Mike Diamond or the Beastie Boy guy. So it would have been easier as Diamond Taurus.
Well, I was going to say, because Diamond, and I was wondering this a while back, because I'm like, you really live up to your name with all of the pressure. You turn into a diamond, right? And I'm like, the stage name where you actually had that name.
No, it's real. It's Diamond Taurus. Yeah. No one's I don't think anyone's asked me. Yeah, a couple of people asked. Yeah. But you know what? It's so great now. We have social media, and a friend of mine just recently who ran with me when we were kids, who was a national champion, and he was faster than me at the hurdles. He's a national hurdles champion, and he's going through horrible opiate addiction now, and I'm helping him out. And he's like, I can't believe how fit you are, like in your 40s. And I'm like, well, why didn't you stop? Like even as a drug addict, I still exercise like an animal, which is crazy. That's why I exercise. That's why I did so many drugs and drank so long, because I could exercise. It's not good.
So there's quite a number of people who I work with who have drug addiction histories, past, current. And one of the common things I see and I hear is, they the relapse is very common, right? What's a way for them to get out of this? Like so many of them just find themselves back. They're committed one day. They're like, yep, this is it. Life is great. And they're starting to put out inspirational memes out on social media. And then a week later, they crash and burn again. And they just continue this perpetual cycle. What's something you would say to them to help them get out of that mindset wise?
It's interesting. So I think everyone has to have association and disassociation. And what I mean with that is I associate massive regret and loss with drugs and alcohol. So, because we're all, as human beings, looking for some kind of pleasure and avoiding pain. Yeah. Now, I can switch that around and say I get massive pleasure out of exercising, being of service, doing positive things, and I get massive pain from drugs and alcohol. So it's a neural association. Most people, unfortunately, will go on a run and life is good, but they forget then how bad it was. Mm-hmm. They don't keep it green, right? So they don't actually break the habit. And that's why rehab doesn't get you sober. Rehab fattens you up for another run. Mm. What gets you sober is the process. What gets you sober is your higher power. What gets you sober is looking at the disempowering choices you're making and saying, okay, I can no longer function at my full potential if I make these choices. Right. And once you do that spiritual work and you go deep, and it's not just in drugs and alcohol, you've got to look at all areas of your life. That's where people fail, where they just take AA and they're like, well, I go to meetings, and I'm like, for an hour a day, that's a motivational speaker. What are you doing the rest of the day? What are you doing the rest of your life? That's why I go deep into mindfulness. That's why I go deep into motivation. That's why I go neuro-linguistic programming. Work with you. Like I'm always trying to grow and learn and grow and add. So then I'll always go on multiple layers before I get to the core, which is the addict, which could be, I don't ever feel tempted. It doesn't matter what I go through. Even when I went through stomach surgery, they gave me opiates. I said, I'll take a couple and I'll tell my sponsor that I don't need all these opiates. I'll figure it out. I just sit in the pain. And if it's going to be painful, it's painful. What am I going to do? I'm just going to sit in it.
So do you get present to the contrast of shit? Like if I do this is going to lead to, X, Y, Z based on the past. So remember that other side one.
I keep it very green.
Yeah.
I look at my past and the mistakes I made, and I look at the driver of the mistakes, and it's usually because I'm stuck in ego. And if you're stuck in ego and fear, you can't be in love and spirit and source and God. And I just switch it, and I just go, if I want to, I don't even question it. Look, could I go out and snort coke for one night and drink? Yeah, of course I can. Anyone could do it one night, but that's not who I am. No normal, look, this is the greatest thing about being an addict, and people hate when I say this. Robert Downey Jr. went from a crackhead to Iron Man. I went from a guy that smoked crack, drank, and did heroin to doing 30 half marathons in 30 days in his 40s and ran one. That's an addict. No normal person does that crap. You know what I mean? Like, that's an addict. My mind is wired that way. That's the energy I have. I take on anything. If we're going to do something, we're going to do it to win. We're going to be the best. We're going to put it out there. And I'm driven by that. But I just make empowering choices, not disempowering.
Yeah.
Do you know? You've got to embrace it. It's okay. You know, it's like people say to me, oh, yeah, you talk about your addiction. I'm like, well, hold on. When I was drunk doing coke, smoking crack, everyone told me I was drunk, drinking, doing crack, and no one said stop. So now people are angry because I'm positive and sober.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
I think, and my gosh, I could talk to you for a long time. I know that we're going over here and I want to wrap up soon. Purpose is really important. And I know that you're living on purpose now, and, you know, you've written your book on mindset, and you're helping so many people who are going through addiction and amongst other things as well. And so some of these guys that are going from day to day, maybe they don't want to get present to the contrast, you know, the other side, because there's nothing to live for. Do you find that purpose is a key factor in recovery? Like, you have to have something to live for, because otherwise you're like, well, what the fuck is the point? Like, well, I can't see 10 years down the road. You know, I'm saying if someone's in whatever, they're in recovery right now and they're like, so what, 10 years, you know, no purpose. Like, I think purpose is really important to have.
I think purpose is the glue. I think without purpose, you have nothing. And I think you nailed it. Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning, is about finding purpose. He suffered the Holocaust because he really knew that if he could get through this, he could create logotherapy and give people, instead of post-traumatic stress, post-traumatic growth. We're all going to face adversity. We're all going to face stress, right? But you can't grow unless you go through stress. So I don't live in comfort. I push myself every day and I get uncomfortable, and that's the new norm. So someone may look at me and go, oh my God, the crap you do. And I'm like, well, it's not really that extraordinary. They're like, why? And I'm like, well, if you take the word extraordinary, you take the word ordinary, you just add a little extra.
Yeah. Yeah. And flip the script. We talk about the gift and the pain. What's the biggest gift in all of your pain, if you were to pick one thing?
The biggest gift in all my pain. That's really good. The gift. What's the gift? The grit and the resilience. The gift is my resilience. I've learned I don't have any quit in me. I'm a honey badger. I'll eat the cobra and then pass out and then get an antivenom. I have so much faith in my higher power. I just go forward. I have no fear. I don't live in anxiety. I don't worry about anything. I get up with a smile. And the best thing is this: I could get up grumpy as shit and I just laugh at myself. That's how I talk to myself. I laugh, Mama, you're grumpy today. And I talk myself into a good mood. Yeah.
Yeah. I hear that. No fear. Just go for it.
No, just fucking go. What are you fearing anyway? I always say, right, that you never see a moving van or a U-Haul truck behind a hearse at a funeral, because we take nothing with us.
Yeah.
Do work, do have so much purpose, and do work that lives on beyond we're here, that people can use from generation to generation to find themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. And at the end of the day, we're this is a mere speck of dust in the massive multi-universes that we're in.
It's a moment. It's a moment. And we all know, you know, and I know, we're all energy. Yeah. And energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be transferred. So it's a transference of energy. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. End of story.
Exactly.
And people are fighting it.
Yeah. I so appreciate this. We might have to do part 2 at some point, but maybe when we're working together and we can showcase some more stories, especially these guys we're working with.
Yeah, let's in the next week, because I'm talking to this guy that has this format. I'll actually pitch him the format if you want, and maybe we go to some prisons and we try to see if we can get individual stories. Maybe it's the pandemic flip the script season 1 and we get 12 stories.
Yep, 100%. You know, like locally, the jail that I work out of, they're saying the guys are missing the programs, right? Because all of a sudden, not just my program, you know, the partner program I'm with, but all the programs, there's no volunteers going and there's no programs happening, and these guys are feeling it. So maybe there's a point where some of these facilities are willing to just say, okay, let's at least do something virtually for these guys, because this is going to go on for a while. We don't know how long it's going to go.
I don't think, what is it, nearly 200,000 dead, and it's April. It's not even the end of the April. So that means they said they're going to open up by May 15. What is it, 300,000 are dead by May 15? They're extending it.
Yeah.
And if they open up businesses slowly, that's great. People won't respect it. People are instant forgetters. They'll get too close. Things will spread, it'll mutate. And then by August, September, what happens? They shut down again. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I know you were saying about a second wave, maybe in September. So, yeah. So who knows? But
we'll be fine.
Yeah.
We've got plenty of people to help.
You know, make a difference for these guys, showcase some of their stories. That would be incredible.
I think it's the way to do it. I think we can do it now, and I think we just have to have if we're being of purpose and we play by whatever rules and regulations and whatever they've got. I don't see why would they? There's no way to say no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And like I said, U.S. prisons are more likely to say yes than the Canadian ones for whatever reason.
I'll text you today, and I'll call my friend Michael Dash, and he's in with Pelican Bay, and I'll say, look, I need to get in. And then I'll just say to people, you know, if you know anyone in the prison system, please contact me. And we'll just put it together and we'll go out like I do. I just knock on doors, and eventually people can say yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. I so appreciate you, Mike. Thank you for sharing your story.
So great to get on with you.
Yeah,
awesome.
It's great to finally connect in person. Well, I've seen you in person, like you were on the left-hand side over there on stage, but
do you want me to tell you? I'm going to end with this, because this is a very important thing about perspective. So that day, unfortunately, the person is no longer with us. Unfortunately, that booked me, and that went from a very long talk, a keynote, to a quick question. But questions. But I wasn't resentful. I wasn't angry. I was very grateful, and because of that gratitude, we connected.
Exactly.
Because I wasn't a dickhead. I didn't say the wrong thing. I could have been like, oh, I'm worth all this, I'm worth all that. And that's why when I took jobs or when I take things, I just dive in if it feels right. Instead of getting out of like the detail, just figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah. And on my side too, it's like, because I was in and out of the room and I just happened to be sitting there and I heard what you were talking about and I heard addiction. I was like, I remember writing your name down, Mike Diamond, on this thing, and going, I got to reach out to this guy on Instagram. And it took me a while. And here we go again, right? Where I can't remember how long it took me, but I didn't reach out to you right away. And then it came to me again, like reach out to Mike. And something said, no, not yet. And when it actually did reach out to you, you said, actually, just last night, I was thinking about working with guys who are incarcerated. So it's beautiful. It's perfect.
It's awesome. You're beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Love you. Thank you.
We'll connect soon. Yeah.
Bye, honey.